Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to this Inside Uni and Cambridge Foundation Year Q&A panel. Thanks so much for coming. I'm Natalie and I'm a representative of Inside Uni. I'm the head of content for them. I'm also a third year history student at Fitzwilliam College in Cambridge. And I'm going to be kind of just hosting tonight and directing some questions towards our panelists. So a bit about Inside Uni just to start with. If you haven't come across us before, this is the first thing you're seeing from us. We are a free student-run website, and we have social media channels and a YouTube channel. And our aim is to crowdsource lots of different advice about the Oxford and Cambridge application processes that some people have access to and some people don't normally through schools and things. We want to collate all that together and put it on our website and our social media for free for everyone to access. And part of that is things like this and events. And today we're partnering with the Cambridge Foundation Year. So I will let Keris and Laura explain a bit more about that. But just to start with, I'll ask our panelists to introduce themselves. So firstly, the Inside Uni representatives, Emma and then Karenza.
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Emma. I'm a second year linguistics student, also at Fitzwilliam College in Cambridge.
Hi, I'm Karenza, and I'm a second year history and politics student at Gonville and Keys in Cambridge.
Thanks. And we also have Keris and Laura from the Cambridge Foundation Year. So I'll let you guys talk about what you do.
Hi, I'm Keris Minogue. I'm the Foundation Year Course Coordinator and I run the day-to-day management of the Foundation Year programme.
And hello, my name's Laura and I'm a student recruitment coordinator here at Cambridge and for the Foundation Year, which means I get to talk to lots of lovely students and help you get all the information you need.
Brilliant, thanks so much. So how this is going to work tonight is that we're going to start with a presentation from Keris and Laura about the Foundation Year, and then they're going to ask some questions for Emma and Karenza about what life in Cambridge is like and what it's like to be a student. And then we'll be opening up questions to you guys in the audience. So if you'd like to, at any point in the live stream, please comment any questions you have in the live chat and we'll get to them towards the end of this session. So yeah, hopefully that all sounds okay. So I'll pass over to Keris and Laura for the presentation.
Brilliant. Thank you, Natalie. Let me just share my screen. There we go. Wonderful. Hopefully you can all see that. Today, me and Keris thought it would be really useful for us to just go through some vague information about the Foundation Year. And then if you have any further questions after this point, then you are more than welcome to pop them in the chat and then we will answer them the best that we can this evening. So we're going to give a really vague overview of the Cambridge Foundation Year, but I wanted to start by vaguely talking about what a foundation year is in general, just in case, just to set the scene really. So foundation years are often courses that have lower entry requirements than direct undergraduate courses, and therefore they can often be seen as a stepping stone to undergraduate study. Not everyone has the same journey in education and everyone has a different pathway, and therefore sometimes foundation years can be the right step for certain people. There are lots of different types of foundation year, but I'm not going to go into too much detail about that because I know that we want to cover the Cambridge Foundation Year a lot in a bit more detail today. So the Cambridge Foundation Year is a brand new, amazing, fully funded and free course at the University of Cambridge. The course itself is a one-year course where you get to study multidisciplinary papers on arts, humanities and social sciences. It's a really great opportunity and again, a stepping stone onto many different courses that Keris will cover later at the University of Cambridge. The course itself is designed for students that are from the UK that have experienced educational disadvantage or disruption. This means that we require you to meet certain eligibility criteria. This is a really important point that you do need to meet these eligibility criteria in order to be eligible for the foundation year. Now, I haven't included much information about the eligibility criteria on this presentation this evening, but if you want us to run through any of those bits, then please do pop a question in the chat and I'm sure me and Keris can cover over it a little bit. But it's really important that you are eligible for the foundation year before you apply. Otherwise, it's not really worth you putting the application in. The foundation year as well has lower entry requirements than standard direct entry to undergraduate study at Cambridge. This is because if you've experienced educational disadvantage or disruption, we expect this will have had an impact on your grades. We have an entry requirement of 120 UCAS points, and we also accept a variety of different qualifications. So that's not just A-levels, that could be a combination of A-levels and BTECs or various other UCAS equivalent courses that we would accept. You can check your UCAS tariff points on the UCAS tariff point calculator. If you just Google that, then it will come up and you can put in your qualifications there. You get the full University of Cambridge experience as well. You'll get to hear from the students that are currently at Cambridge. We don't currently have any foundation year students because this is a brand new course, and therefore our new students will be starting in the fall of next year, so 2022. It is really important that you check those eligibility criteria on our website because it is really important that you're eligible for the foundation year. But essentially, the Cambridge Foundation Year is a really fantastic opportunity for you to fully experience the University of Cambridge for a free and fully funded year where you get to learn about lots of papers within arts, humanities, and social sciences. So me and Keris are going to cover a little bit about the teaching next. So within your foundation year, you will get the chance to study papers across 4 different streams. You can see those streams on the screen. So they are working with textual sources, working with material sources, and working with languages and working with data. You'll get to choose which of these that you wish to study in, and you'll get to select papers within these 4 streams. These papers will be multidisciplinary, so they will cover multiple different subjects. So maybe you're interested in history of art, so you'll pick a paper that covers history of art, but it will also touch upon other subjects as well, which is the multidisciplinary nature of that paper. Some courses, if you wish to progress onto undergraduate study at the University of Cambridge, you may be required to study certain ones of these streams. So for example, if you wish to progress onto a undergraduate degree that requires languages, you may be required to take the working with languages stream. All of these can be found a bit more information on our website, so I would highly recommend checking that out. Our website is on the bottom of all of these slides as well, so if you want to check that out at any point, then you are more than welcome to. I think now I'm going to hand over to Keris.
Yes, thank you. So the teaching model for the foundation year has strong similarities with that of many Cambridge undergraduate courses. This has been done so foundation year students may be introduced to the rigorous ways students learn at Cambridge. Students on the foundation year may expect to be taught through lectures, seminars, and small group supervisions by a dedicated foundation year teaching team. There will typically be 14 to 16 hours of timetabled teaching each week during term time. This, combined with your independent study, will help develop your abilities to take philosophical, reflective, and critical approaches using a wide range of methods. Foundation year students can expect a collaborative, interactive, educational experience in seminars and supervisions, with the cohort often working together on projects and presentations. You'll be encouraged to interact with students in one or more of your progression subject choices, so you may gain a greater understanding of the degree course content. Students will also get the opportunity to explore and research a subject of their own choice and produce a piece of written work in a longer format with the extended project. Whilst working on the project, you'll be supported by a subject expert at your college as you independently research, review, draft your assessment. Next slide, please, Laura. As a foundation year student, you'll be assessed on your knowledge and understanding, your ability to evaluate, interpret, and your communication of learning and arguments. Just as other undergraduates at Cambridge, you'll complete both coursework and examinations throughout the year, with the final assessments taking place in May and June. The examination weighting for the foundation year is 60% coursework and 40% exam. Assessments will vary in terms of format and length according to the paper choice, but all are designed to prepare you for further study, whether that's at Cambridge or at another university. In addition to this, you can also expect a variation in assessment values, with assessments completed just for progression feedback and others having weightings in your overall grade for the foundation year. Next slide, please, Laura. In total, there are 18 courses you could progress on to. This includes English, history, education, philosophy, and archaeology. The full list is on the slide showing now. There may be some on the list that you are less familiar with from your previous studies, such as Anglo-Saxon, Norse and Celtic, or land economy. During the foundation year, you'll be encouraged to explore what studying these courses at Cambridge really involves. If you don't see a subject you are interested in on the list, please note that there is no progression route from the foundation year to any subject not listed here at Cambridge. Next slide, please, Laura. Most students apply for degree courses at Cambridge through UCAS by the 15th of October each year. However, you will not need to apply for your desired progression undergraduate course at Cambridge through this route while studying on the foundation year. Instead, you'll go through a separate and specifically designed process for foundation year students. You will indicate in your second term which subjects you would like to study, and you'll be assessed for your aptitude in these subjects and others. You'll receive an offer to study one of these subjects around Easter, and then you'll have the option to either accept or reject the offer. Just as some courses at Cambridge have required subjects you have studied before, there are some degree courses that have specific requirements for progression. This means you have to complete certain papers on the foundation year curriculum. So, for example, if you want to do modern medieval languages, you need to do the advanced language course to ensure you have a proficiency in the language. Therefore, you need to ensure, whilst completing the course, you make the right choices of papers to keep your preferred options open. Next slide, please, Laura. Your place at Cambridge will be conditional on passing the foundation year at the required level. To do this, you need to be achieving 65% overall or above on the course to progress. If you're at risk at not progressing to that level, you'll be supported by academics at your college and the wider foundation year teaching team to discover alternative study options for you. You will get your final grade at the end of summer term, and if successful, you will start your degree at your college soon after. Next slide, please, Laura. So what are your other options after the foundation year? We are keen to ensure that all students explore other courses and universities and choose something that works for them. You'll be supported by our team in applying through UCAS to other courses, and your foundation year study and Cert HE should put you in a strong position to make competitive applications elsewhere. You may want to do this to ensure you have an insurance option for after the foundation year, or you might decide you'd prefer another course over the offer at Cambridge. Either way, your decision will be supported. If you attain 40% or over on the foundation year, you will also receive the Certificate of Higher Education from the University of Cambridge. This is a nationally recognised Level 4 qualification. While your time studying on the foundation year at Cambridge will be academically stimulating, it will be also future focused and will offer you a stepping stone to thrive in the next stage of your studies. Thank you for listening, and now I'll hand you back to my colleague Laura for the next stage of the panel.
Brilliant, thank you, Keris. I'm just going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to ask Carenza and Emma to come back on the screen so I can ask you some questions, please. Brilliant. Perfect. So I am going to start with a very general question that you kind of covered in your introduction, but just in case anyone's joined us a little bit later, can you please state your name? Fairly simple start, your college and the programme that you study. And we'll start with Carenza, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Carenza and I'm a second year history and politics student at Gonville Keys.
And Emma?
Hi, I'm Emma and I'm a second year linguistics student at Fitzwilliam College.
Brilliant, thank you. So we don't currently have any foundation year students, so we're going to ask you some general questions about life at Cambridge, so I hope that's okay with you. Maybe I should have given you a heads up on these questions, but we'll see how you handle them. So the first question is, why did you choose Cambridge? And we'll start with Emma this time.
Sure. I chose Cambridge because, basically, to give a bit of background, I originally applied for classics, and my choice was primarily based on the structure of the course, because the way that it worked was the first year was designed to give you a bit of a taste of a lot of different areas, and then you could choose what you were interested in and specialize, which actually sounds quite similar to the sort of multidisciplinary approach of the foundation year. And that was kind of what attracted me. And then discovered I had a real interest in linguistics, and then actually switched subjects to linguistics itself. So mine was a bit of a roundabout sort of route, but yeah, I basically chose mainly on what the course entailed compared to courses at other universities that I looked at.
Brilliant. That's a very interesting route, and a bit sideways there, and I like that. It's always good to have a different route. I like it. And Carenza, why did you choose Cambridge?
Yeah, it's kind of like the origins of it is a bit of a murky kind of origin story, but I think when I was in year 9, I got to come down to Cambridge and kind of piggyback on the back of a year 12 economics open day. I was like 14. I had no interest in economics whatsoever. They just managed to kind of get us on this opportunity to kind of see Cambridge and come down here. And it must have just planted a seed at the back of my brain, because as soon as it turned year 11 and time to start thinking about A-levels, it kind of re-emerged as kind of like, oh, I'm aware of this thing that I can do. And then, yeah, through kind of my own research, kind of finding out more about supervision, so like one-on-one teaching styles, I knew straight away that was going to be like, for me, I always responded really, really well to kind of like smaller groups, like personalized teaching. And yeah, I knew the place was beautiful because I'd already been. And yeah, so it's just kind of like a slow culmination of lots of things. But I think the learning about the kind of academic style of teaching and how pretty it was really kind of sold me.
Definitely, I think everyone can agree that Cambridge is a very gorgeous city, and I can imagine living there is an incredible place to live. So obviously you two didn't apply to the foundation year, so you can't talk necessarily about the foundation year application process, but would there be any advice that you would give to any person that would be applying to Cambridge in general? And we'll start with Emma again, please.
I would say it's very easy to get really, really stressed and think about all the other people that you're up against, technically. But it's really important to remember, and I didn't do this enough, it's so important to remember that they're looking for potential. They're not looking for perfection. They're not looking for you to know everything in your interview or in your personal statement, because if you did, you would be teaching at the University of Cambridge. You know, you're applying for foundation year, going on to undergrad. You know, they're not expecting you to know everything, so don't put the pressure on yourself to try and do that. It's more important for them to see how you think and how you respond to information that they give you and that you discover and learn. Yeah, you don't need to know everything. You just need to be interested and enjoy it.
Definitely. I think that is really great advice, because I know that when you see the application process for Cambridge, maybe you could put a lot of pressure on yourself, but definitely there is no need, because they're just opportunities to impress us each stage of that application process. And we just want to find out about your learning style, as you said. Carenza, would you have any advice for Cambridge applicants?
Yeah, I really like what Emma said about potential, because that is like hit the nail on the head. They're looking for potential. They're not looking for a finished product at all. I'd say bear in mind that the application process, and I imagine the process for the foundation year, it's a holistic process. So they're looking at loads of different factors. They're looking at your original application. They're looking, if it's similar to the undergrad application process, they'll be looking at an SAQ, an interview, all these sorts of things, anything that you get to submit. So really don't worry about one aspect or another. Just do your best as much as you can, and they do take everything into account. I think as well, like, do a bit of soul searching and kind of find your passion and find what really, really interests you and kind of grabs you about your subject, about your discipline, because then you can follow your nose and kind of like, if you just, yeah, find what you're passionate about, because that passion will come across in your application. You know, don't only put things into your application that you know that you are genuinely can really convey why you want to study there. Like, don't do what you think you should do what you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's great advice, because sometimes you could often be caught out at interview if you've put something you're not passionate about in your personal statement. I know students have definitely done that in the past. So the next question we have is, what do you think your college would make of foundation year students, and do you think they'd be made welcome in your college? And we'll start with Karenza this time, please.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Keys is a very, very community-centered college. Even down to like how we eat. So we have a system called MDR where we prepay for like 36 dinners in Keys at the start of term, which means that you have to go to a hall a lot, you have to eat. And we have these giant long kind of like Harry Potter style tables, and everyone piles in. And just from like, you know, like because it's not COVID, we don't have like a COVID situation as much this year. I've made friends with postgrads, like met like way more like just college staff members than I would have met. And so having all the years and all the experiences are kind of jumbled up, and we all get along together anyway. So absolutely, the foundation year students will just be welcomed as a big kind of part of that.
Brilliant. And Emma, what do you think? Do you think they would feel welcome within your college?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with what Karenza said. Fitz is a really, really super friendly college. It kind of has the reputation of being the friendly college. And I know every college says that, but I really have found it to be true. And because it's a little bit out of the way, it's maybe like a 10 minutes from the center of town. It's a little bit more out of the way. There aren't that many tourists. And so it's a very close community. And all the facilities that are available for you to use, like the cafe, the bar, the library, a lot of them are kind of centered in the middle of all the accommodation blocks. So it really is like a hub in the middle of college, and the dining hall and things like that. So yeah, it's a really, really friendly college. And I know that it is taking foundation year students. And I think, yeah, it would be great. I didn't actually apply to Fitz. I applied to a different college and got pulled here. And if I was going to go back and apply again, I would apply directly. So I think that says everything you need to know.
Definitely. I think there's two really good points there, Emma. I think no matter which college you end up at, you'll probably be happy. And that most colleges, I think a really good way of describing them is a community, because it feels like a family and a second home, a home away from home. So I think that's really important. And foundation year students, I think, will definitely be part of that community. So the next question I have for you guys is, what does your week look like studying at Cambridge? And I'm going to go to Emma first, please.
So I do linguistics, which is it's technically a social science. It's kind of it's an essay-based subject. So most of my work is independent work, so reading for essays or other assignments that I'm given. I have six lectures a week this term, and usually it's not quite one supervision per module per week, but basically most of my work is spent reading for essays, which you then discuss in supervisions. So that's the small group teaching that you get. So the content in the lectures is relevant to a lot of it, but it's not always directly. So the lecture content and the supervision essays can be sort of separate. So yeah, essay reading is what I spend most of my time doing.
Karenza, what does your week look like studying?
Quite similar actually, because I also do an essay-based humanities subject. So similarly, I have about 6 to 8 lectures a week. At the moment, they're blended, so they're both in person and online, which is just like super helpful. Because if you've got at the moment I have a particularly heavy essay moment going on, so online lectures are really helpful because it cuts down on the time actually physically walking to them. Yeah, so I have 9 supervisions in a term, so usually 1 or 2 a week. I have 2 this week because it's week 5, and we can't get off that easy. Yeah, so I spend a lot of time in the library, a lot of time doing my independent study. Because I'm doing stuff that are very different to last year. So last year I had classes every fortnight, which really kind of broke things up, and it was a nice kind of a different kind of experience. I don't have class, I don't do a paper with a class this year, but I'm doing an extended project with some longer supervisions kind of like scattered around the term. So I'm actually going to London soon to do some research for that. So that's, so it's very varied, mainly kind of independently working on whatever essay I'm been assigned. But yeah, there's some different stuff in there too.
Brilliant, thank you. That's given us a little bit of an insight into what it's like to be a student. And the final question we have for you both is, what is your favourite thing about Cambridge? Your one favourite thing? So I'm going to go to Emma first, because I saw you had your thinking face on then.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really noticed as soon as I came to Cambridge compared to being at school is you have there are just so many, like there's so many different kinds of people to meet and get to know. Like in my first year I was in a corridor with an engineer, an economics student, a few English students, natural sciences, like you get to know so many different people. Everyone is really, really interesting, really friendly. And I think people gravitate towards Cambridge as their first choice because they enjoy their subject and they are really interested and curious. And it just, it's really great having a lot of people like that in one place. I love it.
Brilliant. And Karenza, what's your favourite thing about Cambridge?
I kind of have to, the cliche one, because everyone says it, but it is genuinely the people. I come from quite a small town, and so I've been exposed to people from just like the most diverse set of backgrounds. Has just been like fantastic. Literally all kinds of backgrounds that I've kind of never been in contact with before. And yeah, you really kind of surprise yourself about like, because I think sometimes you have a bit of a preconception coming here of like the kind of people you're going to meet, and to have that like completely kind of shattered very quickly, it's just really nice. And you get on with everyone. I think also you notice yourself progressing, like you notice yourself getting better, which I think at other unis where it's not quite such an intense experience, you might have one assignment across a whole term or whatever, you might not notice that kind of progress as much. But this, having a supervision week in, week out, you really kind of see yourself progressing, and your feedback gets better, and you find yourself pushing yourself in ways that you didn't think that you could, maybe just even 2 weeks ago. So I think that's really like personally satisfying, is to like actually notice your own progress.
Perfect, thank you. That brings us to the end of the questions that I have. So I'm going to pass back over to Natalie so that she can feed us some more questions.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Laura, and thank you to Emma and Karenza for answering those. I'm going to hit you with another wave of questions now, so apologies. But just for everyone watching, please do keep sending your questions in the YouTube live chat. We're here to answer them, so anything that you've thought of while you're watching or that you'd like to know, please do comment them. So of the questions that we've got so far, a few for Keris and Laura first. So the first one is, do you have an advantage in the application if you have more than 120 UCAS points?
Keris, I'll let you answer this one.
Thank you. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily an advantage. Like, it's great to see that, you're academically performing well and it's above the 120 UCAS point requirement. But as I believe the students have also mentioned, like, all applications are considered holistically. So it could be that you're, A-star quality, but you're potentially not suited to the way that Cambridge teaches or to the way that the foundation year is designed to support and develop you. So you might not be suitable for that reason, but you could be getting, for example, A, B, B, and performing very well still at A levels, but you're a suitable candidate for the foundation year. You've really said that you want the opportunity to develop, and you've seen with the foundation year that you could potentially look at different subjects and see where your passion lies, and you don't have to commit to one subject in the first year. You can really get the opportunity to learn more about subjects that your college or school never really taught you, and then be able to choose from there. So yeah, that's a very convoluted way of saying not necessarily, but it would also be acceptable. We wouldn't necessarily reject your application because you exceeded the academic requirement.
Thank you, that's really helpful. And on a similar note, another question that we've had is there anything else that you look for when recruiting applicants apart from the eligibility criteria? So I suppose certain skills or attributes in your applicants that you're looking for.
Laura, would you like to take that?
Yes, I can do. I think generally we would, so for example, within a personal statement, we would expect you to be passionate about a subject in particular, a subject preferably within arts, humanities and social sciences, because that's what the course focuses on. But we completely understand that you would be applying to other universities. So therefore we would expect your personal statement to still be passionate about a subject and maybe one of the 18 subjects you can progress on to afterwards. We, again, like Kara said, there's so many different stages in our application process that you'll have the opportunity to show us why you're interested in the course in particular. So just in case you don't know, and maybe we should have put this in our presentation, you submit your UCAS application and our deadline follows the January deadline as opposed to the October deadline, so you have a little bit longer. Then you have the FY SAQ, which is similar to the SAQ that the direct entry students will apply with, where we ask you to submit your evidence for eligibility and lots of other things in there, including understanding your motivation for the foundation year as well. And then we have admissions assessments, interview. So we have different stages of the application process that we'll be able to pull out those skills that we want to see. And overall, we're just looking that you would be a good fit for the course. And it's also a chance for you to understand whether the course is the right fit for you as well. There may be a point you get to in the application process and you may think, actually, this isn't the right fit for me. And we're just trying to make sure that you're the right fit for the course as well. We wouldn't want you to get 6 months into the course and then for you to figure out that it's not the right one for you. So I think there's lots of opportunities for us to find those skills that we're looking for and find that passion and motivation that you should have there.
Great, thank you. And again, that passion and motivation, it comes around again and again, but it is genuinely the most important things. Another question for Karis and Laura, actually. Once completing the foundation course and you attain over 65%, if you have a specific course in mind, is it guaranteed that you can progress to that degree?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily guaranteed just because there's so many variables. It might be that your college encourage you to potentially shift into another subject, which is still a progression opportunity that would be, they feel, more suited to your skills and experience. But we, as much as possible, want you to progress onto the program that you want to do from one of those 18 choices. So nothing in life is guaranteed, but it would be our strong preference as well that you were able to progress into your number one choice.
Thank you. And actually in the previous answer you did mention this, the SAQ or the SAQ. I never actually heard it called the SAQ before, but the foundation year SAQ. Do you have any advice for completing that?
I have lots of advice on completing this because I've just been making a video on it. So there are so many things that we could say about the FY SAQ or the FY SAQ, however you want to say it. I know it's said in multiple different ways. I think one really big piece of advice would be to make sure that you check out which evidence we require for the eligibility criteria. Now, this is all on our website, and I would really recommend doing this in advance because sometimes it can take a little while to gather that evidence together. Maybe you need to collect it from multiple sources, and it is really important for your application to progress for you to have that evidence. And we do have a short, tight deadline for you submitting the FY SAQ, so that's really important. Another thing I would really recommend is checking out the guidance that we have on our website, because it really does go into detail on every single aspect of the FY SAQ, and therefore we're basically helping you as much as we can. We also have a webinar coming up next week on the FY SAQ as well, which you can find on our website, which goes into lots and lots of detail. And we also have a video that's a complete walkthrough of what the FY SAQ looks like. So you can even look at the application before you even get the application. So that's really useful. And we will have some more videos coming to our YouTube channel, which you'll magically see me probably wearing the same outfit that I'm wearing right now. So you'll see those, and they will contain lots more information. But Keris, do you have any more tips on the FY SAQ?
No, I think that we have quite a lot of resources on our website and on YouTube related to the FY SAQ. I think the most common question we get from applicants is, where do you sort of specify your interest in the foundation year, why you think the foundation year would be suitable for you, whether you do that in the UCAS application or wait for the FY SAQ. And the FY SAQ has been specifically designed for you to have that opportunity to not only say how you meet our eligibility criteria, but also for you to discuss in more detail, you know, why the program will be suitable for your educational needs, what you think the program could potentially do for you in your educational journey, that sort of thing. So yeah, if you're concerned about what to include in your UCAS personal statement and what to include in your FY SAQ, I know that Laura has done an excellent video about personal statements where she can talk you through what you can include in that. And then the FY SAQ is just purely why you would like to do the foundation year, so you can put all your information in there.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Yes, another event to look out for is the SAQ event. So all the details of that are on both the InsideUni website and the foundation year one. We've got a question here for Emma and Karenza. What is the social life like at Cambridge, and do you have much time to rest and recharge? So go to Emma first and then Karenza.
Sure. Yeah, the social life is actually great here. I think Cambridge really has a reputation of being all work and no play, but it's really not like that at all. In terms of extracurriculars and stuff like hobbies and interests outside your degree, there is so much going on. There are literally hundreds of societies, like that's not an exaggeration. I think there's about like 500. There's loads. I don't know exactly, but yeah, when you go to the Freshers' Fair, there's literally like stalls upon stalls, like multiple tents. There's so much, and a lot of people get into something new at uni. So I am in my college chapel choir. I'm a choral scholar, and I also do powerlifting. And those are two things that I got into upon arriving at Cambridge that I didn't do when I was at school. So there's so much, like any society you could think of, any interest you could have, there will be something for it, and there'll be other people interested in it. So in terms of having fun outside your studies, there's a lot of opportunity for that. But there's also, you know, people are understanding if you do need to recharge, if you're feeling run down, burnt out, whatever, like supervisors are very understanding. Everyone is in the same boat, and a lot of the supervisors went to Cambridge themselves, or Oxford, or another, you know, a Brussels Group university. They know what it's like because they've been in your shoes. So in terms of resting and recharging, you know, it is an intense environment, but it shouldn't you shouldn't like kill yourself trying to stay on top of everything. And yeah, I think that, yeah, there's definitely enough of a chance to rest, look after yourself and recharge when you need to, while still making progress academically and having a social life.
Yeah, Karenza, do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of like, I think, yeah, so Cambridge does have a reputation for being like very kind of like boring and just work and nothing, but it's like, we always say it's work hard, play hard, because yeah, we do. So yeah, in terms of like extracurriculars and stuff, I do theatre, and I do archery as well, which is fun. And those are two things that I like specifically block out time in my week for. So that's kind of like precious time. Like, I'm not working, I'm not gonna compromise, like that is my time to like recharge and do something that I want to do. So work's not going to interfere with that, no matter what's happening. Like, I want to go and do that instead. I know also you kind of learn things about yourself as well. So I know after a supervision, I need a few hours off, I need the rest of the day off. So that's really my like prime time to kind of like properly decompress and just kind of like, you know, have a cup of tea and like watch something. Is so like you learn that as well. And yeah, you get to know your own kind of rhythms of study and when you need to take a break and when you need to yeah, when you feel up to it, kind of like really pushing yourself again. But yeah, the nightlife is great as well. There are some clubs here. And I'm like a big pub person, and there's like a million pubs, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, I just thought of something actually related to what Corinne's was saying. I think it's worth knowing that however you decompress and look after yourself and spend time away from your degree, there will be other people like that as well. So some people just don't want to, some people just like, you know, socializing with other people, so just hanging out, not really doing anything specific, just, you know, social time. And there will be other people like that. As Corinne said, like there's a lot of pubs, there's a few clubs, but if you like having hobbies and other activities to actively direct your attention to, then there are also people who do that as well. Like you will find people who do things in a similar way to you.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thank you for that. It's that thing where you can, I don't always like just doing nothing and being bored, so I prefer to kind of direct the energy into something completely different that isn't work. And I've actually met some of my closest friends through doing societies and clubs and things like that. So it has like a dual benefit that way. And yeah, definitely agree with that. A few more questions for Keris and Laura about the kind of logistics of the foundation year. Firstly, what do the admissions tests entail and how can applicants prepare for them?
Yeah, so actually we'll be uploading a guidance document and a sample paper that applicants can practice with in the next few weeks on our website. But the assessment itself will be a combination of listening and reading comprehension tests and then also an essay-based question. But like I said, if applicants are interested, there will be additional resources for you to explore on our website within the next few weeks before Christmas. And we'll also be doing a video webinar on our admissions assessment. So you'll have as much possible time to practice and to get as familiar with the test as possible if you're shortlisted.
Sorry, I mute myself there. That's great. Thanks so much. Some of the questions we've had about the application process kind of relate to the interviews. And so I suppose I'll go to Keris and Laura first, then also perhaps to Emma and Corinne for their advice having been through the interview process. So firstly, someone has asked, will the questions at the interview be tailored towards the personal statement and the subject interests of the applicant, or are they more broadly based on humanities?
Laura, would you like to take that, or shall I?
You can take that one, Keris.
Okay, so yeah, the interviews will be very comparable with the sort of standard Cambridge interviews, which tend to be related to the subject interests that you specified in your personal statement and that you've indicated elsewhere within the application process. And then there might be some general, broad, subject-specific questions thrown at you, but it will be tailored to your interests and your subject type.
Thank you. And similarly, do the interview questions for the foundation year differ that much from the typical Cambridge interview questions?
No. There might be some places where it diverges, but we've tried to keep the admissions process as similar to the Cambridge standard admissions process as possible. So there is actually a guidance document on the university website related to how can you prepare for interviews at Cambridge. So I'd strongly recommend that anyone who's shortlisted and is invited to interview both in standard admission and for the foundation year, that they review that document and guidance, and you'll feel prepared. Don't worry.
Great. In that case, then, Emma and Corinne, do you have any advice, having been through the interview process, that you'd recommend to future applicants for the foundation year? I'll go to Corinne first and then Emma.
Yeah. First of all, check out InsideUni's website for literally as much interview guidance as you could possibly ever want. Yeah, I'm getting very good at plugging that, by the way. Yeah, no, the website is such a brilliant resource. Personally, I would say calm down. It is a conversation. It is not an interrogation. Yeah, if you've already in your application to get to the interview stage, you've probably already got quite a good idea of what your passions are, what your interests are, and the questions will probably start there to give you some kind of level of comfort. Cambridge interviewers are very, very good at putting you at ease, and you're so like, there's so much adrenaline. They're good at calming you down, and you tend to forget your nerves immediately as well, because you get straight into the questions and you get straight into kind of talking about what you're so interested in and why you want to take it up at Cambridge. So yeah, definitely calm down and remember that it's a conversation, it's not an interrogation.
Thank you. And Emma, do you have any more advice?
I would say know your personal statement very well. When you're writing, this is sort of pre-interview, but when you're writing it, write about what you're genuinely interested in. Don't try and put things in there that you think they want to see, because then when you get to interview, they might ask you about it and you'll be a bit stuck. But know your personal statement well, because they could ask you about any aspect of it. I would say, treat it like a conversation. This is a chance to talk to people who are really, really high up in a field that you're presumably very passionate and interested in. So like, I would try and see it as an opportunity rather than something really scary and horrible, because it's really not. It genuinely is like a conversation. I would also say when you're asked a question, it's okay to take a few seconds to collect your thoughts, think about how you're going to respond, rather than opening your mouth and diving into an answer straight away without thinking about it, because then it's very easy to either waffle or start talking and then realize, actually, no, I don't think that, and then have to like change tack. They know you're going to be nervous. They're not looking for you to know everything again. Try and keep calm, treat it like a conversation and a really good opportunity to speak to some really cool people. And also it's a little bit like a supervision. So it's kind of a two-way street. It's a chance for you to see whether that style of, small group conversation would be something that you think would help you learn, really. So keep calm. It's a two-way street.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. And just staying on the interview theme for one more question aimed at Keris and Laura. If an applicant has a subject in mind when they're applying, for instance, this person's an example of education, should they be reading around the subject in preparation for the foundation year interviews?
Laura, would you like to say that?
Yeah, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Keris, but I think that we would just really kind of base it on the subjects that you have either put in your personal statement or that you've put on your FY SAQ, where you've talked about the subjects that you're currently studying in your A-levels or BTECs or other qualifications. So you're welcome to show a bit more reading, and that if that's what you're passionate about, then yes. But we wouldn't also expect you to read every single book on education ever, because it could be completely thrown off something else. So I would focus on what is passionate for you. Don't feel like you have to read every single text in order to be prepared for this conversation, because as the other two have just mentioned, it is a conversation for you to have. And if you're not up to date on one little bit of reading, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's about how you structure your answer, how you think through your answer, and how you approach what is being asked of you more than what you have read in a book. So yeah,
I would 100% agree with Laura there. It's fantastic to see in a statement if, for example, you've been listening to a podcast that relates to education in children, and you really want to discuss, why this podcast has really developed your learning and why it's made you start thinking about these different avenues within the subject field. That's fantastic, and definitely include that if that's the case. But also, as I believe the students have also touched on, if that's not the case, don't include it, because then you will get lots of questions about it in the interview and you'll need to back it up somehow. So include what you're passionate about and what you've got genuine interest in. Yeah, but don't feel you need to know everything about the subject.
Thank you. And one more super quick one on the interviews. Will the interviewers be specialists in the course that you're interested in if they've expressed like a preference in the application? Or is it just a general humanities academic?
It will vary from college to college. So we'll try and have at least one subject specialist on each interview panel, but it will sort of vary in terms of college availability. But whatever you'll be interviewed on, there will be someone who has a knowledge of it at least, because this is Cambridge. So that there's no fear that you'll turn up to your interview and it'll be 4 engineers and you'll be discussing the Brontes. So yeah, everyone will have a subject relation to it, but it might not be everyone is an English reader, for example.
Thank you. Another question we've got, probably again for Keris and Laura, is what languages will be available on the Working with Languages stream?
You'll have to answer this one.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So there'll be a mixture, as it tends to be with the foundation year. So in the language paper stream, you could potentially be doing a paper on language abilities of children of immigrants in the UK, which will sort of have an element of linguistics, of language. But then you will also be supporting you if you'd like to take any programs at the Language Centre that the university has. So at Language Centre, they do all sorts. It's well worth looking at their website. They do Korean, French, Spanish. If you're interested in potentially going on to do something like classics or ASNAC, then you could look into doing something like Latin or Celtic, something along those lines. So it is very broad and varied, so we can try and cater your specific need as much as possible.
That's great, thank you. Another question we've got coming in is, do you remain in the same college as the one you were at junior foundation year if you progress to the undergraduate degree?
Yes. So you'll stay in your same college if you progress onto undergraduate study. The only times that might not be the case is if you're at a college that doesn't do the subject that you'd like to progress onto. But if that was the case, you'll be repooled back into one of the other 13 participating foundation year colleges. So either way, you'll end up at a college that has the knowledge of how to support a foundation year student transitioning into undergraduate study. So you'll be supported all the way through your undergraduate programme.
Brilliant, thanks very much. Yeah, we've got a few minutes left, so if you have any final questions, please do send them in. It's by the YouTube live chat. Just a couple more questions for Emma and Kerenza before we wrap up. I wanted to ask, people might find it helpful. Firstly, what is your favourite place to work when you're in Cambridge? All the different libraries, coffee shops, so much to choose from. Where is your like top prime working space? Emma first and then Kerenza.
I think it depends what sort of mood I'm in. If I'm in a mood to do like serious focused work, you know, if I'm actually writing up an essay or I've got a particularly tricky bit of reading, I really like working in the FITS library, so just the college library, or the English faculty library. I'm quite particular around my workspaces, and they're quite open, they're very quiet, they've got good natural lighting, which is a really big thing for me for some reason. But if I'm in the mood for sort of like more chilled out, sort of relaxed kind of work, I'll usually go to FITS Cafe, like listen to some music and do some essay reading, or I'll go to the Costa Coffee in Market Square, which is like in the centre of town. It's got like a really big window with a view over the market, and it's just nice and spacious and very light, and you can drink hot chocolate. Yeah, but there's so many places to work.
Nice. What about you, Kerenza?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in the Keys library. Keys genuinely has like one of the best libraries, I think, in all of Oxbridge, so both universities. It used to be the university library, and then we very luckily like got handed it as our college library. So yeah, and it's sort of like eating in hall. It sort of becomes a bit of a social space because you see the same people in there like day in, day out. So I have a mate of mine, and the reason we are friends is because we kept going to the library together accidentally. So yeah, I love working there. I spend most of my time there. I live really centrally as well, so it's literally 30 seconds from my door. I have a Pret subscription as well, so I spend a lot of time trying to get a coveted Pret working spot. And that's nice as well, because then it's much more social. Like, you know, I can talk to my friends at a full volume, and we can get like a nice little study group going. So that's very sweet. I'm trying to branch out and go to more libraries, because I went to the law library last year, but it's like impossible to get in because it's so popular. And non-lawyers are like only allowed on the top floor. But they have like really comfy seats, and the natural light in there is gorgeous because you can see like out over the river and out onto Sidgwick and everything. So I want to go back there at some point. Yeah.
Great, thanks very much. Yeah, it's definitely one of the things about Cambridge is there's just so much choice and so many places to be and so many places to work, and so much going on outside of work as well, as we've touched on with talking about things like societies. So you get all of that experience as part of being on the foundation, yet just like all other Cambridge students. And so I hope we've kind of got that message across to you today. We're going to wrap up now, so thank you so much for all your questions. That's been great, and thank you so much to our panelists, Keris and Laura, and Carenza and Emma from InsideUni. Just to clarify again, lots more information is available on the foundation year website, and including their upcoming events, things like the SAQ webinar. And there's also the InsideUni website with lots of student advice, as Carenza and Emma were talking about, the interview testimonies that we've got, collecting all the best advice from successful applicants. So have a read through those. And yeah, thanks very much for joining us, and hope you have a lovely evening.